If you're a smoker, you know switching isn't easy. You've tried vapes and e-cigs. They just didn't deliver the satisfaction you expected. But Juul is different. It's not an e-cigarette. It's a vapor product that actually satisfies. Plus, Juul is simple to use, and there's no cigarette ash and no lingering odor. As a smoker, you expect a certain nicotine experience, right? Juul delivers. Give Juul a try. Check out JUUL.com/sports. Switch and be satisfied. Yes, you can do both. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's a big day for our franchise as we welcome Jimmy Butler.
They got a doll!
If Jimmy just goes in there and plays, Philly will love him.
Well, do you trust Jimmy Butler? Do you feel good about him being the third wheel?
Now or never.
I think Le'Veon Bell messed with the wrong organization.
Every single week, a coach is on the hot seat. And if you don't win, it's going to be warmer.
Well, that air quality index is getting worse. Extra oxygen available.
It started when I was 4, 5 years old. I remember that joy of playing on the street.
By far, the best high school player with height.
Does he want to be the best?
Yeah.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Welcome to Outside the Lines. Ryan Smith here in for Bob Ley. It's a new era in Philly basketball. Time to process it all. That's our big story today. Just 3 years ago, the Sixers were 10-72, the dregs of the NBA. Now, all those years of trusting the process, perhaps paying off. An all-star and potential MVP in Joel Embiid. An all-world talent and rookie of the year Ben Simmons. And now, Philadelphia, say hello to your newest star, Jimmy Butler.
I'm very excited. Obviously, the potential here with Ben and Joe and all the other guys on the roster, I think we can be really, really good. When everybody buys into everything, we get that chemistry and all of that good stuff rolling. We're going to win a lot of games. I know that this city thrives and loves guys that just compete and work hard and want to win. And if you haven't been able to tell by now, I think I'm that guy.
Oh, so as of today, is the process complete? Oh, if the world were so simple. Now the questions begin. After seemingly wearing out his welcome with two teams, how will Butler mesh with the Sixers superstars?
When we get out there and play together, I think it'll be a different story. Hopefully a good one that ends with a happy ending. But I think that when guys get out there and they know how to play basketball, which everybody on this roster does, it's all going to fall into place.
There's a lot at stake for both sides in this union, especially for Butler, who's eligible for a max deal from Philly at 5 years, $190 million at season's end. That's $49 million more and a year longer than any other team can offer. So joining us from the Sixers practice facility in Camden, New Jersey, ESPN NBA reporter Ian Begley, looking good with that tie that matches the background perfectly. Ian, my friend, what did he have to say, Mr. Jimmy Butler, about his relationship with Coach Tom Thibodeau and that Minnesota situation that he is now long gone from?
He says that he will always be close with Tom Thibodeau. They will always have a strong relationship, and that remains so today. He said that things just didn't work out in Minnesota for various reasons. He said that, by and large, also, Tom Thibodeau was kept in the loop about this whole trade request and the subsequent process over the last few weeks. And he said he would still also be in touch with his teammates in Minnesota if they ever needed help. And I think there are probably a couple of guys in that Minnesota locker room that may have smiled when they saw that quote from Jimmy.
I bet that's true. Let me ask you this. Obviously, his past is huge. We've known about the issues in Chicago, now Minnesota. What did he say about what he plans to do differently in Philadelphia so it doesn't end up like the past two stops?
You know what, Ryan? Jimmy actually spent a lot of time today pushing back against that narrative that he's bad in the locker room, that he is disruptive to young players. And what he said was he sees these reports that are sourced reports, but he has never seen a player on the record come out and say that he's a bad teammate. So his thing is, hey, unless the guys that I've played with in Chicago and Minnesota are very phony, I think I've been a good teammate, and I'm going to show that in Philadelphia. He didn't get into any specifics about what might be different with a guy like Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz, but he has spoken to both Joel and Ben, and he's just ready to go right now. He's ready to get back on the court. He says he's ready to push the past behind him, and he feels like he can push this Sixers team forward to where they want to be, which is in the NBA Finals.
All right, so it remains to be seen. That personality obviously important if he wants to get that max deal, that meshing with the team. Ian, thank you so much. And now for more on Jimmy Butler and other NBA issues, we turn to Marc J. Spears, senior NBA writer for The Undefeated. Okay, so Marc, what do you think? How is this all going to work out in Philly, do you think, with Jimmy Butler now added to the mix?
Well, the one thing that they need is some practice time together. They missed a training camp, and the fortunate thing for the Sixers is they do have a back-to-back on Friday and Saturday this weekend, but outside of that, there's a lot of practice time available this month. So I think those guys definitely need to take that seriously. I see Brett Brown making a little mini camp, training camp as much as possible and trying to get on the same page. But, don't be surprised if there's more downs than up initially, because those are three huge pieces that got to mesh together.
So then it's interesting that you say there might be more downs than ups. Joel Embiid talked about how he spoke to Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins, and he said, quote, they thought we were definitely going to get along, which sounds interesting, consider what we've learned over the past couple of months. If there are more downs than ups, if things don't go as well as Jimmy Butler wants them to go, could we see some of the things that we've seen over the last few weeks in Minnesota?
Oh, well, yeah, there's two strong personalities there with Embiid and Jimmy Butler. If I'm those guys, I'm calling Chris Bosh. I'm calling Kevin Garnett, guys that played on successful big threes. Have them come to Philly, get them a cheesesteak, and explain to them what worked in Miami, what worked in Boston.
But if you're Embiid and you're challenging
for the training camp,
if you're Embiid and you're challenging for the MVP at this point, aren't you saying, well, I'm the LeBron James? Maybe Jimmy Butler should be talking to Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade.
Well, that's why I think they need to bring those guys in, because what the big three did in Boston, because they're now the big three in Philly, and what the big three did in Miami is they took their egos aside, and the Warriors are doing this now and thinking about winning. When you win, everybody eats. Everybody has a chance to get that endorsement, and there'll be a guy that gets MVP candidate. I mean, it's nice to have great stats, but it's better to have a championship. So I'm guessing, and I'm speaking for Embiid, but I'm guessing that he would rather have a championship trophy than an MVP trophy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's true as well. Let's talk about another issue regarding another All-Star, Carmelo Anthony. There's been talk that he may be let go from Houston. There's been a lot of talk about how he's messing with that team. What's your take on that situation? And if he does leave, what do you think happens to him next?
Very unfortunate. I did wonder if he and D'Antoni would be on the same page, and that should have perhaps maybe been something that Carmelo should have considered stronger. He could have went to Miami, decided not to go there. It's just curious that they've decided to pull the plug this fast. They knew what kind of player that they were getting. They want offense. He's offense, so I would think they would try to figure it out instead of saying, hey, we're going to go with a two-way player, which I'm sure feels disrespectful to Carmelo. So it'd be hard to see it turning around from here. It gets a little bit more embarrassing tonight. They go to Denver without him, place where he made a big name for himself. Allen Iverson tweeted out today saying, hey, I know, little bro, what you've been through, and, wishing him the best. So I'd like to see better for Carmelo Anthony. I think wherever he goes from now, and Philly has an extra spot, he just has to make sure it's a really good fit for him and they're on the same page before he gets started. And recently talked to Dominique Wilkins, spoke about how hard it is for superstars to become a role player, right. But that's the mindset he probably has to have now to have a successful continued career.
Yeah, it's a difficult switch to make. Hopefully he can do it, whether it's in Houston or whether it's at another stop after that. All right, Marc, thank you so much. What is it about Week 11 that feels like crunch time in the NFL? Crunch time for teams hovering around 500, like the Bengals, Cowboys, Eagles, Packers, and Falcons, to prove they can make it to the playoffs. Crunch time for coaches like Todd Bowles, John Harbaugh, and Jason Garrett, whose win in Philly Sunday night gave him a one-game reprieve on the endless chatter about his job. But maybe not John Gruden, perhaps the safest 1-8 coach in memory. And while those teams confront questions, a tragedy off the field is having a major impact on several teams around the league. California's wildfires have devastated the Golden State. Northern California's Camp Fire alone has claimed over 40 lives, with scores still missing. At last night's 49ers-Giants game in Santa Clara, 150 miles south of the fire, the effects were clearly felt. The air quality index was at a level considered unhealthy for certain groups. Masks being donned on the sidelines and in the stands. And at that game, the 49ers honoring the Paradise High School football team. Coaches and most of the players and cheer team losing their homes in the fire, offering a brief reprieve from the tragedy, if only for a moment. Difficult situation. Indeed, our hearts are with them. And let's bring in ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck to talk about this a little bit. Now, talking about that game last night, the masks, all that, those optics, not good for the NFL. We asked them about whether or not they thought about moving the game. They said, we closely monitor the conditions throughout the week. There was no need to move the game. They cited the game operations manual saying that experts agree that that index has to be over, that index above 200 signifies unhealthy conditions. Right. The idea being that was below that, so the quality might have been okay to play. What did you think? Should they have played?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I actually have some sympathy for the league in this regard. I actually do think they should have played. I think, in terms of whatever the standard is in terms of the air quality and them deeming that, I guess, acceptable, not ideal, but acceptable for that moment. I do think the way that the teams handled it, obviously you saw John Lynch as you were introducing this piece, and kind of, welcoming in some of the people that have really been affected by this. I think you called it a reprieve probably for some. I think that's an accurate way to describe it. So, look, it is a hard situation, but there's also not really a great solution to it. What's the solution? The Giants host another game on on a different day. I mean, I was actually with the Giants when we hosted. Was supposed to be an away game with the New Orleans Saints after Hurricane Katrina, and that wasn't an ideal situation for those Saints players either. So. I think in terms of how they handled it, it was probably the best possible outcome.
So then what happens with a situation like we're seeing in Mexico City where there's allegedly significant discussions going on about whether to move that game because of the field conditions? We're talking Rams, Kansas City next week.
Less sympathy in my regard in terms of that situation. And I think it's important that we look at them differently. To me, this is unacceptable. This is the National Football League. You're trying to grow the game. You're playing the game in Mexico City. There is, obviously a ton of stress put on the players to even go play a game at that altitude, all of that, and then to go and be playing in a situation that, Ryan, quite honestly, a lot of high school teams around the country are playing on better surfaces than that. And I think that really it's unfair to these players to be put in that situation.
Especially if you're thinking about the potential for injury.
Well, 100% in terms of injury. And these things have come up in the past. I mean, you think about the Reggie Bush situation, an injury a few years ago in St. Louis, just off of the playing surface where he slips on the ground, ends up tearing his ACL. I think the NFL needs to do a better job across the board in terms of the playing conditions and field conditions around the league. And I think if you're going to move games to stadiums that the league doesn't have control over, then you need to do something. Whether it's pay for the stadium to be shut down the week prior so that you can cover the field and get it in proper condition. But it's not okay to have people playing in those situations.
Couple seconds left. I have to ask you really quick. Coaches, teams on the hot seat right now.
Well, listen, I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and I think we'll probably have 6 or more openings is what it looks like. And it's just the matter. It's just the world we live in now where people are impatient and, you don't get a lot of time to have that, to get that job figured out.
Tough time to be a coach these days, as it is every year.
They're paid okay, though.
Tim, always a good time to see you. Thank you so much. Well, up next, see what it was like for King James when he was just a prince.
My name is Lauren. I'm 33. I didn't want my identity to be the smoking mom. My first experience with Juul, I do remember being like, this is good. It's like a cigarette, but not. I don't miss smoking at all. Like, I can officially say it grosses me out.
Juul is the tobacco alternative that delivers nicotine satisfaction without cigarette ash or lingering odor. Make the switch at JUUL.com/sports.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Outside the Lines is brought to you by Corona Extra. Find your beach.
LeBron James has been among the world's best for so long, it's hard to remember a time before. A time when he was nothing more than a high school phenom with limitless potential. And as the last installment of the 10-part series Basketball: A Love Story shows us, even as a youngster, the man we now call the King was destined for greatness.
He grew up as a single mom, an only child.
His mom was 16 when she had him. LeBron's grandmother, Frida, brought stability for the first 3 years of LeBron's life. Unfortunately, Frida dropped out of a heart attack when LeBron was 3, and Gloria ended up living many, many different places.
There's no man in the house, so he's the man. You grew up quickly, and his childhood was short.
But somehow, in the midst of a tumultuous childhood, LeBron found a sense of community and purpose in what would become his first love.
I think it started when I was 4, 5 years old. Me and my friends, we had a basketball. I remember that joy of playing on the street and cars interrupting our game. The sport of basketball was just, it did something to me.
He hooked on to Drew Joyce, a summer league coach, and stayed all this time with him. LeBron went to St. Vincent St. Mary High School.
They came to watch LeBron James.
I heard about him going into the 9th grade. He's already Division I player.
What is your individual goal right now as a 16-year-old? What's your long-term goal?
To get to the NBA.
Do you want to be the best?
Yeah.
When I saw him play in high school, and I said, oh my gosh, he's got it.
The thing that amazes you, he never disappoints. By far, the best high school player with height.
Player and a great offensive rebound. Here's James. Look at the pass. There appears to be no debate. LeBron James is the best high school player in the country, and he was even last year when he was a junior.
Yes, he knew he was the best player, and it was not allowed to hit.
LeBron, this is all for you. I mean, all these people this crush of media is here waiting for you. I mean, are you ever going to get used to this?
No. A crowd of about 10,000 people expected here in Cleveland tonight as LeBron Mania goes national for the first time.
King James.
He had probably been seen by more people in his high school games on ESPN and ESPN2 than Russell and Chamberlain were.
You pick up the paper today and it says LeBron Mania has hit this area. Cover of Sports Illustrated, cover of ESPN magazine. The hype machine's been out for over 2 years. Bottom line is the reviews have been unbelievably fantastic. He gets better reviews than the producers, man.
I got to a point where I'm covered by real bright lights. And I knew who I wanted to be around. I think for me, in my case, my childhood friends was the ones that was there for me when the game of basketball and sports was just pure and innocent. And they saw me grow from the 9-year-old child to now to this veteran. But they saw it in a form that was pure and innocent, where it wasn't about nothing besides just having fun. Those guys are everything.
As a takeaway after watching that him in 4 years of high school is that it wasn't just that he won a championship for its own sake, that they won 3 high school state championships out of 4. It is that he won it with those guys, with those buddies, those same core group of people that he had known since grade school. It was important to him to be a part of the group.
So there's this urban thing where the success is never in isolation. The success is always to some degree a communal success. There's corollaries in hip-hop all over the place, from Jay-Z to Drake out of Toronto, Ali, who had Brandini Brown. You know, he kept his team who were there at the beginning. It's me helping pull up my friends. LeBron James, he came up with, his friends from Akron. This is a guy who has a level of loyalty that's unprecedented.
We wanted all our kids that came to five-star basketball camp to pay their dues. LeBron comes as a rising star, and he lasted, I'd say, a day and a half. I go to him, I said, LeBron, listen, you're a little too good for this league. We've never done this before, but you're dominating. We're going to move you up. And he said, Mr. Garfinkel, please don't do that. He said, I don't want to leave my team. I love my coach. I love the players on the team, having a great time. Please don't move me. 999 out of 1,000 young 15-year-olds would have jumped in the air and said, thank you, thank you. I was stunned.
The newly anointed King James exploded onto the national basketball scene. And the pressure he was about to face would become seismic.
We still thought after his freshman year he might go to college for a year. Middle of his sophomore year, now he's going straight to the pros.
He's the top NBA pick, but at barely 18 years of age, can LeBron James deliver, and does he belong in the pros? Even the commissioner says he's too young.
Then the remarkable thing where the Cavs actually win the lottery to get LeBron.
The first pick in the 2003 NBA draft goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
ESPN Basketball, A Love Story, our unprecedented 20-hour film that consists of more than 60 interconnected short stories, wraps up tonight with the final 2 episodes starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. All episodes are streaming live on the ESPN app. Well, coming up, who says out with the old and in with the new? The NFL throwback that works. Next.
Geico presents eyewitness interviews with inanimate objects.
This is Belinda Collins, live on the scene of a recent hailstorm. Here to describe the event, a football.
Bro, I was just hanging on the roof when this gnarly storm starts dropping baseball-sized hail. I mean, the shingles got beat up. A few windows looked broken. It was savage.
Did you do anything to help?
Nah, bro. I was in survival mode.
Your football can't help you in a hailstorm, but the Geico Insurance Agency can help you get covered for personal property damage. Call Geico to see how affordable homeowners insurance can be.
I love a great touchdown celebration, and they've been more creative than ever since last year when the NFL relaxed the rules. But what do you do when it's all been done? Some players have figured it out. It's out with the new and in with the old. Case in point, Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas pulled out a flip phone circa the 1990s after this score 2 Sundays ago against the Rams. Sound familiar if you're, say, over 30? Think Joe Horn in 2003. And if you think the league has changed, Horn was fined $30,000 back then. Thomas now, $30,000. Titans All-Pro safety Kevin Byard earned a fine of his own for this move against the Cowboys, channeling his inner T.O. from almost 2 decades ago, and even getting a shove from the Cowboys' Byron Jones, playing the role of George Teague. And not to be outdone, Tyreek Hill acting as his own cameraman after the second touchdown Sunday against the Cardinals. Someone say Chad Ochocinco? But our grand prize and our congratulations goes to Ben Watson from that Saints-Rams game. This football stuffing right here, announcing his wife's pregnancy with babies 6 and 7, channeling, wait for it, himself a decade ago. And he didn't even get fined for it like he did back before baby number 1. That's change and savings on a lot of diapers. Yes, some of these displays ended in penalties and some ended with fines, but kudos for the NFL for letting the celebrations thrive. And to the players, even now that old is now new, it's all making football fun again. Well, we'll see you next time. Give Bob a call on his phone. NFL Live is next. Hey, Bob, how's it going? Oh, football. Yeah? You're on the beach? That's nice.
I think smoking always affected my daily life because I was a closet smoker. It really sort of controlled my entire day. My boss is the one that recommended Juul, so I decided to give it a try. You don't get any of the odor of smoking. There's no ash all over your car. I would say give it a try.
Get the flavor and satisfaction of smoking without the mess of cigarette ash or lingering odor. Switch to Juul. Check out JUUL.com/sports. If you don't smoke or vape, don't start.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.